This is the Ryen Russillo Podcast, presented by FanDuel. All right, so let's talk Rodgers. He's off the charts here statistically. 35 touchdowns, 4 picks in a season where guys, as I said in the open, starting to throw more picks. Number one in QBR, number one in QB rating. The completion percentage, he's at, I don't know. I mean, look, all the stats are nuts, and the Packers are maybe the best team in the NFL. Is there even an MVP conversation at this point?
There isn't, and he's playing hurt. I think what's interesting about this, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's really no second place, right? I mean, who else would you vote for in the MVP? And if you don't vote for Aaron Rodgers, is it because you don't agree with some stance he took earlier in the year? Like you don't like his personality, you don't like how he handled the vaccine thing. Like, I just think it's going to be really interesting because it should be pretty unanimous. I can't really see another candidate that takes a lot of votes away. So I'm just kind of curious. I'm gonna be interested in seeing who doesn't vote for him and what the reasons for not voting for him are.
Yeah, I think at one point it felt like Lamar was the guy because he was carrying Baltimore, hadn't played enough games, and Baltimore falling apart has more to do with not having him and then all the injuries catching up to him. I thought Kyler had a chance there. Yeah. I think Brady was in the mix. There was a push for Jonathan Taylor, but as the Jonathan Taylor push was happening, and by the way, he's 500 yards ahead of Joe Mixon, who's in second place. So, Taylor's at 1,700. There's been almost, you're right. I don't feel like, wait, does Rodgers, like when the Taylor push started happening, I don't remember anybody being like, are we nuts? Are we not doing the Aaron Rodgers thing here? And you're right. Like, look, he fell all over himself in some of these COVID arguments. Yeah. I hated this stuff from the summer because it's just like, look, Rodgers, this is a good team. You're acting like you're Deshaun Watson down in Houston, so I didn't agree with him there. But if you have a vote at this point with a week to go, I don't know who else you're voting for, and some guys are definitely not going to vote for him.
Well, that's what I think is interesting. Like Jonathan Taylor, awesome player, great season, awesome. I mean, it's nice. Brady, obviously, every year you can mention Brady in the MVP race. The Lamar thing, when he was carrying that much water. Kyler Murray's fantastic. How he ended the game yesterday against the Cowboys. I mean, they're all really, really great players having really fine seasons. But they're here compared to way up here where Aaron Rodgers is playing, considering the circumstances as well. He's carrying that team. Would they have 4 offensive line starters missing again? I mean, it's him and Devontae Adams in a really nice run game they pieced together that kind of falls off of the passing game, and they're dominating. It's going to go through Green Bay again. And I just think the interesting part of the conversation is what you said. You didn't like how he handled some stuff. I didn't like how he handled some stuff. Some people, it's not just they don't like it. They won't like him. Like they're so emotionally attached to what they don't like about Aaron that they're not going to vote for him as the most valuable player in the NFL. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see who those people are. That they can't detach their personal feelings about something from what their job is, which is to vote on who is the best player in the National Football League.
Yeah, now I can't wait. Now I can't wait to see how that vote comes out because, I think if you have a vote, you're voting for the most valuable player of the NFL. I mean, that's what you're voting for. And it really shouldn't be anything else.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anything like Antonio Brown happen?
No, and I'm sad for Antonio Brown. I mean, listen, when it happened, I was like, what? I'm like everybody else. And I get the whole some people are outraged, quitting on your team, and I get all that. I mean, as a coach and as a player for so many years, there's so much of this team stuff and you buy into something bigger than yourself and you sacrifice, and I love all that stuff. But when somebody goes off the rails like he has repeatedly, there's something really wrong. And I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he needs some serious help. And that's where I land on this thing. And just looking at this thing from 30,000 feet after the 2 years that all of us have been through, there's some people that are just hurting in ways that you just can't comprehend. And you see it come out in the oddest ways. And we're seeing it come out in Antonio Brown that way. And I'm beyond mad or frustrated. I'm more sad than anything else. And this kid needs some serious help.
I know I don't even think I put this in the notes, but you would touch on it a second there with the way Kyler closed that game against Dallas. I've been watching for him, like for two specific things without Hopkins. I think he's really hesitant to push the football. He had one where he was a little off with Green on a completion. He had another one to Green where, look, AJ Green's had an amazing career. It felt like AJ, didn't make enough of a play on the football. And then I also think Kyler dealing with this ankle thing has been limited as a run option to scare you.
Yeah.
And then it felt like Kingsbury and that group were like, look, we can't run the football. He looks a little hesitant. We're up. We can't blow this. Like, we got to get a little creative here. What did you think of the way they closed that game against Dallas, where it looked like things were turning against them?
Oh, it was brilliant. I thought I can't remember who was doing the game. Who's announced
Troy.
It
was
Troy. Yeah,
Troy.
flipping back and forth from a lot of different games. And I think Troy mentioned it. Like, what a heck of a coaching job to kind of scratch together a little run game here at the end when we got to close it off. I think they had a little option play. I think they tried the option play a couple times. They went the zone read a couple times, but it's almost like they drew it up in the dirt on the sidelines. It was impressive. Now, equally disappointing for the Cowboys defense. I mean, you can't stop those. They had numbers, by the way. It wasn't like they didn't have numbers. They're caving in too much in the A and B gaps and giving away the edges. But yeah, he's such a unique competitor, and I think Cliff gets it. You got to let a competitor like that has a unique skill set, regardless of circumstance, whether he's banged up, whether he's playing well, whatever the circumstances are, you got to put the ball in his hands. I mean, he's a true guy that it's got to be in his hands, run, pass, create in critical moments. And that's what they did with them. And it worked. They closed that deal. It was pretty impressive.
Let's talk a little Joe Burrow. I love the guy. When you try to figure out, okay, how's it really going to look on Sunday? That it factor stuff that we're always trying to define ahead of time, and it feels almost an impossible exercise. Whatever that is, he has it, the combination with he and Chase. But I'm scared to death that he has a little Wentz in him where he still hasn't, even with the knee injury last year, Trent. Look, he got knocked out of this game too, and it kind of gets lost because they beat the Chiefs at home in a huge spot for them in the playoffs part of it. But put the whole package together of what you're seeing, and then maybe speak a little bit to that I'm just actually a little worried about his approach and how they protect him too, because he gets his ass kicked every week. Is my other point.
He does. All right, I'll start with just the player DNA, and I felt this way coming out. He was a really hard study. He is, and some people are going to take this the wrong way because idiots take things the wrong way. He's talented, but he's not uber talented. He does nothing physically that is wow.
Just to have me interrupt you, would you say like Herbert versus Burrow physically is not even a comparison?
Even close. It's not even a conversation. Herbert is exponentially. When I say, I don't even always use talent, because to me, idiots will take that the wrong. Well, I'll say horsepower. Herbert has way more horsepower. But I love Burrow's true talent. His true talent is, he's a good athlete. He's really accurate. He's got a nice delivery. He's got a good arm. Sees it great, but it's all the other stuff that goes with that: toughness, leadership, moxie, charisma, command. I'll just start making up terms, right? And you start layering all those other things on a good, solid, talented player, and now you're like, that's the wow. The wow is the sum of the parts. It's all of it together. Part of the wow with Joe Burrow that makes him so good, all these things, is his toughness. And you saw it at LSU too. Now, they protected him pretty well, but he would hold on to that sucker to the very last second and then take it in the chin. The year before the Heisman, we didn't play very well. I admired that most about his game, was how tough he was, and his moxie and his command, and like the dude factor, right? We call it DQs, dude qualities. Like, he just has those DQs. Wasn't that good the year before he goes off at LSU, but man, you admire him. Like, you watch him as a quarterback, you're like, oh, that's a dude, and he's going to be okay. Now, we had no idea he was going to blow up. At least I didn't. Most of the guys I talked to didn't. And now you're seeing that in the NFL. And that's what I think, that's what I love about him too. I've grown from liking him a lot to absolutely loving watching him play and how he plays and what he stands for. Now, that toughness piece can get him in trouble. The same thing that makes you laugh, makes you cry in the NFL. He's so dang tough, and he's got such great ability to stand in the last second and be accurate down the field in chaotic environments and people are around him. The hits he takes aren't just because you really can't kill the quarterback anymore, but it feels like he gets killed still. Like guys still fall on him and guys are still around his legs, and he gets, and maybe this was good. And I'm not watching every quarterback snap in the NFL, but every week it seems like he takes the hardest hits or the most awkward hits. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's just a lot where I'm like, is he going to get up? I'm always, as much NBA as I watch, and these guys at 7+ feet can do what they can do. I actually am surprised more of these 7-footers don't get hurt all the time, collapsing on each other, feet underneath feet, going up for rebounds. It happens way less than you would think it would happen. The reason I bring that up is that Burrow feels like one of these 7-footers, like, oh, is Anthony Davis going to be all right? And there's times where he gets hit, and then he's kind of like looking out from underneath this pile of limbs and all this stuff. And I go, is he going to be all right? And he was limping halfway through the game yesterday again. And then they had to bring in Allen to even pull off whatever it was they were trying to do at the end.
That was awkward. Yeah, that whole thing was awkward.
I mean, you got to kick the field goal there, right?
Until you don't, you win the game. Well,
they ended up because that reset the clock and everything.
Yeah. I was going crazy. I agree. But yeah, I think this is the interesting thing to look for with Burrow as we go on. It might even be as soon as the playoffs. And Tony Dungy kind of mentioned this a little bit last night on the NBC show. Why you are giving him isolation throws consistently is mind-boggling. That's what he does better than anything in his game. I would put him with the Rodgers and Brady's, the very best in the game now and of all time, of being able to locate the ball outside the numbers and these isolation throws, these back shoulders, these timing routes, these fade balls. Like he just has this unique ability to locate it with the best of the best. But you can take those away. And what I'm getting at is you're going to see a lot of zones. You're going to see a lot of just too high shells. They're not just all cover two, but these too high shells with corners that are going to reroute and try to rough up the receivers with help over the top. And Burrow's always been a guy that holds it a little bit. So they're going to take away what he does best, those isolation throws outside. And then, if you look at his DNA, he likes to hold it a little bit. And that's why he gets hit so much, is because he'll work deep through a progression. He'll go boundary to boundary. He'll pat the ball and climb the pocket. All these can be good things. In fact, I think they're really good things until you start taking more hits. And when he faces a team that can get to him with 4 and play these too high shells, these loaded zones in the back end and make him hold the ball, he's going to take more hits than the next guy because he's not that. I think why Tom Brady's been so successful for so many years is regardless of coverage, regardless of team, he's going to get the ball out of his hand. He is not going to hold it too long. And Burrow does not have that yet in his game. He will hold it longer, and he's going to take more hits because of that.
This is a bigger point, though, too, is I don't even know 10 years ago I would have cared. Like, I would have just seen Joe Burrow get hurt and go, I shouldn't say it that way. Not caring is the wrong way, but it wouldn't be as big of a part of the conversation. Like now we're just so used to guys being protected the entire time. It's like, well, why are you allowing yourself to get hit? Whereas I remember, and maybe you will speak to this better than I will. One of the greatest things about Favre, and I don't know if he was better than everybody in the modern era at this, but he would hold onto the football willingly to take that hit, to get destroyed, knowing that his receiver, his tight end, needed just that extra beat to get open.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of forcing the throw, no, and I don't really have a good chance. Let me give, third down in the red zone. All right, here he comes. Here's that defensive end. He's going to put his helmet right in my chest plate, and I'm going to take it. And we admired all of that stuff because, by the way, Favre also got up every single time. Was Favre the best to ever do it? Would Favre hang in the longest, taking the most punishment, not caring? I guess maybe you'd argue you're second, but I don't know.
No, gosh, no. But no, I just think I'm gonna answer that question. I'm gonna take it a little bit of a cool direction too with Joe Burrow. I think. Yes, you're absolutely right on Favre, but I'd put Marino in there. I'd put Kelly in there. I'd put Warren Moon in there. I'd put Aikman in there.
Kelly's a great one. I mean, Kelly spent looking at, like, I feel like he was looking back through his ear hole all the time as they just kept getting first down after first down.
I'll give you a weird one who really had about a 5-6 year really good stretch that just took him on the chin all the time was Stan Humphries.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, I remember in 1994 I get drafted and I go to some trading card Donruss or Tops, whatever we got our money from before we signed back then, golf tournament. And it's all the Hall of Famers, right? It's all the gold jackets. They're not in the Hall of Fame yet, but Kelly, Moon, Aikman, Elway, Marino, Favre, all of them. And they're just dudes. Like, they're the best of the best of the best. When on the field, off the field, Joe Burrow should have played in that era. Like, he is one of those guys. The way he carries himself, the way he plays the game. It's almost like he grew up watching that generation play. He reminds me so much of Jim Kelly. People use the Brady analogy, and I see it. I mean, I can see, the full field scanning, the stoic, being stoic in the pocket, the quick delivery. I mean, I see that piece too, but man, go back and watch Jim Kelly play than watch Joe Burrow play. I mean, it's the same guy. Marino, outside the incredible delivery, same thing you're talking about, right? Like a little skip to the left, a little hop to the right, hold it just for the extra tick, wait for the guy to make the double move on the deep pad, and then just rip it down the field and take this kill shot and have a 300-pound land on you, and then get back up kind of laughing, and then smoke a cigar in the locker room afterwards. I mean, that's just who Joe Burrow is. That's why I love him so much, because I grew up admiring those guys, playing against them, watching them, getting to know them on and off the field. I mean, he is just a throwback that way. And I don't feel like I'm explaining this well enough, but he's very unique in modern day football for how he plays the game. And I think that's what you're seeing. And I think that's why, circling back to the beginning, I think that's why he takes more hits than everybody else.